For years, the absence of Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, and Dr. Loomis caused many fans of the Halloween movies to feel confused, reject the film, or even become angry. However, as time has passed, those emotions have eased, and the film has been reevaluated on its own merits. While John Carpenter's original masterpiece is widely seen as the peak of the franchise, this 80s sequel is, for some, not us, but for some, the film that best captures the spirit of the Halloween season. By blending elements of the ancient past with modern American celebrations and cultural rituals, it creates a tapestry that depicts the spooky season in a way few horror movies have even achieved. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horrorthon, followed by the big giveaway. Don't miss it, and don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time for Nicholas Pepin and I to discuss Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch from 1982 on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Welcome in, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. I am your host, Tim Williams. I am so happy to have a returning guest host for tonight's very strange investigation. To unravel the secrets of the Silver Shamrock Novelties Company, I needed a partner with a mind sharp enough to resist the hypnotic final commercial. He's no automaton spouting the same old opinions. He's the real deal. A man who can spot a conspiracy a mile away, and he's here to help me figure out if this movie was a brilliant, deadly trick or a misunderstood holiday treat. Please welcome back to the show from Pop Culture Roulette with his mask ready, Nicholas Pepin. How you doing, Nicholas?
You know, I was trying to come up with something quippy, but I got nothing. I'm just going to go with it's somewhere in between.
Yeah. I will say, so a little fact check here. If you're not a long standing listener of the podcast, Ron West and I covered Halloween 2 very early in the podcast, probably like season 1 or 2. And we had planned to do part 3, Season of the Witch, the next year. And he was not a fan. This was before Nicholas came on, I think. He was not a fan of it. And I watched it and was like, I don't even want to talk about this movie. I'm just going to skip it altogether. And I was like, I'll never do it for the podcast. But here we are 3 or 4 years later, and the summer of sequels, we're doing part 3s of sequels released in the 80s. We've done every other Halloween movie except for this one. So I was like, I'm going to put it on the calendar. I'm going to suck it up and I'm going to do it. I will say, watching it this time, it wasn't as terrible as I remembered it. Still not great, but it wasn't as terrible. There's still a lot of things that don't make any sense and are like, well, which we'll talk about. But I think going in knowing that Michael Myers isn't going to be in it helps to kind of like, ease some of the disappointment in it, but it's still not a great movie.
I mean, I'm going to jump the route a little bit here.
Go for it.
Had this movie had any other title, literally any other title.
Yeah.
It's not it's not the worst movie. Like, it's not. But it's putting the word Halloween in front of it after having done 2 really successful Michael Myers movies.
Right.
And then a really confusing subtitle.
Yeah, that really doesn't make any sense.
I think you kind of shot yourself in the foot, and you've already covered the Halloween movies, so we know where 4 goes back to.
Right.
And I think there's a reason why the anthology idea that John Carpenter had died immediately.
Yeah. Seemed like a good idea at the time. So, All right. Well, before we get into storage and pre-production, let's stick with the format. So, Nicholas, when did you see Halloween 3 for the very first time?
A couple of years ago,
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I know I think I've talked about a couple horror movies. Yeah, because I've done at least one Friday the 13th with you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
So
so.
growing up, I wasn't really allowed to watch horror movies.
Right. Right.
So a lot of this stuff is new to me just because of that. And I I had done Halloween on my own show
Mhm.
through horror through the decades.
Right.
And so I was like, oh, and then you were talking about Halloween, and one of the other podcasts I listened to was talking about Halloween. So I was like, I'm gonna watch 3. Knowing what it was ahead of time helped.
Right. Right.
But like I'm glad I didn't watch it without prior knowledge, because I think
Yeah.
had I gone
Yeah.
into it going, this is a Halloween movie, I would have been really angry.
Like everybody that went to the theater in
Yes.
1982. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I, it. Yeah. So a couple years ago, I watched it for the first time, and then watched it again on Saturday night through definite legal streaming ways.
Sure. Same here. It was on a website that said free
Yes, it was.
and archive. So yes. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, I had not seen it until, like I said, a couple years ago when I watched it to originally do it for the podcast. I had never seen it before then. I don't think I'd even seen bits and pieces. It's not one they're going to run, on AMC every Halloween. Like I think they run every other Halloween movie on AMC every Halloween, but not this one. So this isn't one that I remember like being on TV as a kid or any of that. Like I remember nothing of this movie from my childhood. All I knew was like the cover, the poster on the cover, and the masks. But um, so I guess we're kind of both the same with this. How long has it been since you watched it before you watched it for the podcast? That was my last time for me,
Yeah.
4 years
I
ago.
think I've seen it 2 times total now.
Yeah, same. So yeah, we're right there in the same boat. So yeah, I can see where this one's gonna land on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter already, but we'll 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 save that for the end, like we normally do. So, story origin and pre-production, I made this much shorter than instead of talking about way too much stuff. So, nice brief history. The behind the scenes story of the first anthology attempt is just as wild as the film itself. Carpenter and Hill initially tapped Joe Dante, fresh off The Howling, to direct. Dante, in turn, suggested legendary British sci fi writer Nigel Neal for the script. In a fun twist, Neal accepted the job despite openly disliking the first 2 Halloween films. However, the creative team was a revolving door. Dante soon departed to film a segment for Twilight Zone the movie, and Tommy Lee Wallace stepped in to direct. Wallace was an old hand, having served as production designer on the original Halloween, and had famously turned down directing Halloween 2 because he hated the script. Didn't learn his lesson that time, huh?
Apparently not.
The writing process was even more chaotic. Neil delivered a script focused on psychological shocks, but the studio and producers wanted more gore. After clashing with Carpenter and Wallace over revisions, Neil walked, demanding his name be removed entirely from the project. Carpenter and Wallace both performed rewrites, leading Wallace to later joke that his sole writing credit on the film is, quote, just about the most inaccurate credit you could ever conceive of, end quote. So yeah, I did notice that, like, his name was, written and directed by uh, Tommy Lee Wallace, but from what I understand, it's very much most like 75 to 80% of the movie is what Neil wrote, and he just added a few things to it, but it's basically the same story.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it's a mess. So
Yeah. You can blame them all, you can blame one. It doesn't matter. I think, they all get equal credit for, what it became. So anything else that you had read about pre-production that you feel is
I mean,
worth mentioning?
other than the fact that John Carpenter, and I'm sure you covered this on the second one, but it does
Yeah.
bear repeating, is that
Yeah.
he originally, even from the get go, wanted to
Mm-hmm.
do Halloween as an anthology series, but the studio kind of forced him into doing Michael
Part
Myers with the
two.
second one, part two.
Yeah.
but he had always conceived this to be just a series of scary movies under one title, which sounds like a really cool idea. But I
Right.
guess when you do so well in the first one, people kind
Yeah.
of want to see more of that.
Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Because, as we've talked about before, Michael Myers kind of started that trend of the slasher. We wouldn't have Jason Voorhees if we didn't have Michael Myers. We wouldn't have Freddy Krueger if we didn't have Michael. We wouldn't have Chucky. Like all of these, the
Right.
slasher icons that we now know would not have, Friday the 13th was basically, Sean S. Cunningham wanting to get in on the money that Halloween made. So he basically made the same type, like use the same template of a movie of a crazy killer, psycho killer killing teenagers and just put it at a camp instead of a neighborhood. So, yeah. But this was not that at all. This does feel like watching it again. It's like it is not a slasher movie at all. It's
No.
completely
And
outside of what you expect. It's more, like that sci-fi,
what struck me is how goreless it really was.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you could almost show this movie unedited on TV.
Well, for sure. Yeah.
There's like
I mean, it gets a little
maybe
creepy, but it's not
there's like
gory.
one or two scenes you might have to cut or
Mhm.
do a little fancy editing.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like you could get away with showing this one on TV unedited.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, because there's really not, the android. Like, spoiler alert, they're androids. Can you
Right.
say android? I think that's before Lucas copyright or trademarked android, so it makes money anytime you use the term. But if you didn't know that, anyway, that's I won't go down
I mean,
that
I think
rabbit
they
hole.
only referred to them as automatons in this movie,
There you
but
go. That was the term I was looking for. But yeah, so they don't even bleed. It's like concentrated orange juice is actually what they used
yeah.
for like the orange goo that comes out of their mouths and their bodies. But yeah, it's and even like that first kill at the beginning when the guy's running with the mask and the robot person like crushes his like nasal cavity. Like I don't even really know what he did. He just like pushed his hand on the guy's face until it kind of like
But I
crushed or
mean,
whatever.
they at least the copy I watched, they kind of cut up, and you hear the noise,
Yes,
but you
yeah.
don't really see it.
No, no. So and it's funny because even some of those scenes where like it went for the gore, like the quote unquote gore, felt out of place. Like it didn't fit the rest of the movie. You know what I'm saying? Like I could understand, like I never understood why, and we're way ahead, but we're there now. So why, like the kid that they tested, why, like, first of all, why are you waiting to test this like 2 days before Halloween when you've done this like 4 months earlier? But anyway, I digress. But like the family gets in the little room and they put the mask on the kid, and then it's like, all these crickets and like, insects that are coming out of him, and then the snake comes out and the snake
Yeah,
bites the mom. It's like there's no connection of why that's happening at all. I mean, I know it's supposed to come from Stonehenge, but even that is fuzzy as to how that all works.
yeah. The
So,
logic of the ultimate like end goal of the Callahan or
mhm.
Carnahan, whatever his name
Yeah,
was,
yeah,
made didn't really make a lot of sense.
yeah. We'll get into it. All right, let's jump into casting. Once again, this one, unlike all the other ones we've done for the summer sequels, no one returns in this movie from the previous part one or part two. So all new cast, but there's really only like three main characters that I think are really worth mentioning. But we'll cover them kind of quickly here. The cast of Halloween 3 mostly consisted of character actors whose previous credits included cameo appearances on various TV series. The exceptions were Tom Atkins and veteran actor Dan O'Harely. Atkins, who was cast as Surgeon Dan Chalice, had appeared in several John Carpenter films before Halloween 3. He played Nick Castle in The Fog in 1980 and Remy in Escape from New York in 1981, which uh, Nicholas and I covered this year.
Yes,
Yeah, that was this year.
earlier
Yeah,
this year.
yeah.
Yeah.
Atkins guest starred on TV shows like The Rockford Files and Lou Grant. He told Fangoria that he enjoyed playing the hero as a seasoned actor. I'm sorry, as a seasoned horror actor, he said, I wouldn't mind making a whole career out of being in just horror movies. After Halloween 3, Atkins continued supporting roles in numerous films and TV series. So just a little bit about Tom Atkins. Yes, he is in The Fog. I've seen that one. Of course, he was in Escape from New York. Probably his most famous role. He was also in Night of the Creeps, which I watched last year, another 80s kind of more of a B movie, horror movie. But the most iconic role is he is Hunsaker in the first Lethal Weapon that gets shot with the sniper while he's holding the eggnog, like the famous
Yes.
bullet for the eggnog scene. So
So
that's him.
I feel like you and I covered a lot of Tom Atkins '80s movies.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because we did Lethal Weapon and Escape from New York.
This
You're
is
right.
at least the third one,
This
if
is the
not
third one.
four.
Yeah. Who knew Tom Atkins would have such a, such a vast career of the '80s that he was definitely that guy. Like I would not have known his. I mean, maybe 2 weeks from now, if you say what's that guy's name, I'm may be able to pull it out of thin air, but I'm not sure. So he's not a
Yeah, you're
top
right. I mean,
top tier actor.
no, he's a cult. I mean, he's
Yeah,
a cult actor. I mean,
yeah,
he's.
for
I
sure.
mean, you already named a lot of the movies that he's in. I've covered a couple of them with you or
Mhm.
over on Horror Through the Decades, over with the on the PCR stuff. So
Mhm. So then we've got Stacey Nelkin as Ellie Grimberge, a young woman whose father, Harry, is murdered by Silver Shamrock. She got the role after a makeup artist working on the film told her about the auditions. Nelkin considered it an honor to play Jamie Lee Curtis's successor. According to Roger Ebert, Nelkin's performance was the one saving grace of the film. He explained, quote, she has one of those rich voices that makes you wish she had more to say and in a better role. Too bad she plays her last scene without a head, end quote, which I love. Before her role, she was one of the main characters in the 1980 Mad Magazine movie Up the Academy, which also starred Ralph Macchio. After Halloween 3, she continued working as a character actress on television. So she wasn't terrible. I don't think she was the saving grace of the movie at all. Like she's okay, but yeah,
I
I don't
think
think.
saving grace is a strong word for this movie. So
Yeah. I think the best of the ones we're going to cover is veteran Irish actor Dan O'Harley, who is cast as Connell Cochran. I think it's Connell Cochran, the owner of Silver Shamrock, and the witch, quote unquote, which is really more of a warlock from the film's title. He was a 3,000-year-old demon in Neil's original script. He had played close to 150 roles before this one and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor for his performance in Robinson Crusoe in 1954. He appeared in another 20 films and television series before his death in 2005. In this movie, of course, he plays the corrupt corporate executive, something that he would be well known portraying in the first two RoboCop movies as the old man. So I thought that was interesting. And then, of course, the name stood out to me because he's also in The Last Starfighter. He plays Grig. Of course, you don't know that's him because he's wearing an alien mask, but I knew the voice immediately that it's the same actor. So,
okay,
anybody you want to, anything
no,
you want to add, or anybody you want to add?
no,
Nick is like, let's get through this as fast as possible.
no. I mean legit. Like there's so few people in this
Yeah,
movie
yeah. I mean,
that
everybody else is there for like maybe 5 minutes, and that's it. Like, there's not a whole lot of
like
characters in the
the
movie.
woman who played his ex-wife was in one of the other or two of the other Halloween movies as a
Yes.
different character,
Yeah, I
but
did
I
read
don't
that.
remember her name.
Yeah.
And like if I hadn't read the credits, I wouldn't have even known that she didn't. Unfortunately, just and not through any fault of her own, just the lack of script. Like
Yeah.
she didn't really stand out. So
Yeah, the only other person I thought about mentioning as like a main part of the cast is the other doctor that was doing like the lab work for her and that was going through all the robot parts.
oh yeah,
But, I don't she didn't populate much on her IMDb page, so wasn't worth mentioning, but she was actually decent. Of course, she didn't have to be in much of the movie, so but I kind of liked her character. Yeah, so you mentioned Nancy Kyes is the one that played
Yes.
Chalice's ex-wife, Linda. She appeared in the first two Halloween films as Laurie Strode's promiscuous friend, Annie Brackett. Stunt performer Dick Warlock, who played Michael Myers in Halloween 2, played the lead android assassin. Jamie Lee Curtis provided uncredited voice work as the Santa Mira curfew announcer and the telephone operator, which I did recognize her voice as a telephone operator. And then director Tommy Lee Wallace provided uncredited voice work as the Silver Shamrock commercial announcer. So he's the one that did all the commercials. And that's what I got for cast.
All right.
Yeah. Moving right
Yeah,
along.
moving right along.
All right, let's talk iconic scenes. If someone says Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, what's the first thing that pops in your head, Nicholas?
The only thing that would come to my mind is that commercial, and they air it like, I think they said 14 times.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so.
That one, 6 more days to Halloween,
Mhm.
Halloween. Yeah. That's your iconic, because, I mean, I'm honestly shocked now that this movie has kind of come back around and hit cult status,
Mhm.
that they don't make more of a deal of the mask. I know that somebody sold some versions of the mask not too long
Yeah,
ago,
yeah.
but I mean, like, they're just, like, I mean, those masks are probably 90% of the budget, but
Right. Yeah, so for the song, they used the tune London Bridge is Falling Down because it was in public domain, so they didn't have to pay any
right,
money for it.
yes,
But it's also catchy. Like, I didn't realize that was the same tune until I read that. The theme, as you said, was played a total of 14 times in the movie. 4 times at the gas station, once at Linda Chalice's home, once at the hospital, once in the bar, twice on the television screens in the shop window, twice on the radio, once in the motel office, once in test room A, and once in the final scene.
yeah. I mean, it's also I mean, like you said, I mean, if you have to come up with something from this movie, that's what you think of as that commercial with that song.
Yeah, I think that, and then yeah, I think the masks are probably what I remember, like the pumpkin mask, probably because that's the one they use. You know, the boy kind of dies with the
Right.
pumpkin mask on. But I will say, like, I think for me now, I think the iconic scene for me would be the ending with him, like, screaming, "Stop, stop, stop it!" And I'll say, I'll go ahead and say it up front. I like the ending. I like the ambiguousness. Is that the right word? Ambiguous.
It's close enough.
Yeah, big words. Big words, hard to say. Ambiguous ending that you don't know if he really stopped it or not. Um, which I actually thought it was, the first time I was kind of like, oh, that's kind of weird. But watching it the second time, I think I appreciated it more. I liked that better than, it was different. There was no last jump scare like we would expect from other things. Uh, what's his name? Cochran didn't come back, didn't pop up at the gas station, surviving his electrocution or whatever that was that
Yeah, who
happened
knows?
in the factory or whatever. So, but I will say, after he shouts "Stop it" on the phone at the movie's very ending, the screen cuts to black and ending credits. Originally, the ending theme wasn't going to be played during the credits. Instead, it was supposed to be the screams of millions of children being murdered. Director Tommy Lee Wallace decided not to add this so the ending would be ambiguous and had a possibility they were saved. When lead actor Tom Atkins saw the new ending, he was much more satisfied with the movie in spite of critical reception and likes to imagine his character's struggles weren't in vain, or at least his own children were, or at least his own children survived.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the ambiguous ending is better than the screams of millions of
Yeah.
children.
Yeah. 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 That definitely would have been a happy ending. Not that we get really happy endings in these type of horror movies, but yeah. Well, so what about favorite scenes?
Um, I've got the homeless guy,
Okay,
or
yeah,
when he
yeah,
gets his head ripped off. That's kind of a cool special effect.
yeah. That one was pretty good.
It's one, and again, like, it's oddly kind of without gore, considering
Yeah.
his head is getting ripped off.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then that fight scene at the end after she becomes an automaton
Yes.
is
Yes.
so over the top but
Yes.
funny.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's. And I did see that there was some argument online, and I don't know if you have this in your notes, but like people are like, well, maybe she was an automaton the whole time. No, she wasn't. Stop
No,
it.
no.
Like you can tell, like the way she was portraying herself after
Hmm.
he saved her.
Right,
Like,
right.
you know, you kind of fit. Like the second time I'm watching, I'm like, oh, yeah, of course. How did I not know that she was a robot?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, but like you know, she clearly wasn't a robot until they kidnapped her and turned her into one,
Right, right. Yeah,
or
yeah.
at
That
least
that.
made a copy of her. Maybe she's still actually locked up in the factory somewhere. Who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly, exactly. So yeah, um, I did like that fight scene. Yeah, like I said, it was more comical. Like I was like, she's not gonna pop up again. Like he battled the arm, and then like a second or two later, then here she comes without the arm, and then it's just like yeah. Uh,
Yeah,
but that was a cool.
it kind of had an Evil Dead feel, or an Evil Dead
Yeah,
2
yeah,
feel.
yeah.
It was comical. It was funny. It was well done.
Hmm.
It kind of gave a needed relief break to an
Hmm.
otherwise kind of movie.
Yeah, yeah. I don't really have any favorite scenes. But going back to the drunk, I will like interesting scenes or things that make you go, um, is when he's like, can I have a sip? I don't have any diseases or anything. And he just gives the guy the bottle. And then like 5 seconds later takes a sip from the bottle after the drunk guy drank from it. I was like,
But
the
he didn't
80s were
have any.
wild, man. The
He
80s
didn't
were
have any
wild.
diseases.
That's what, trust him. You're in
If you
you're in this unknown town where people looking at you weird when you come in, when you drive in. But this homeless guy, sure, man, have a swig of my juice.
if you can't trust a random homeless stranger in a backwards town, who can you trust?
Exactly, exactly. PSA, kids. If he says he doesn't have diseases, he's probably right. Oh man! All right, so I got to talk about these while I'm thinking about it. Let's talk about these like the weirdest parts of the movie. So maybe not favorite scenes. Let's go to like weird scenes
Okay, I've got one of
as
those.
yeah, as Laramie calls it, his weird science. Like where does the logic not add up? So go ahead and see if I've got two. I'll see what you
Well,
got.
this one's not so much weird science as it's just a super questionable scene.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of those. But yeah, go
So,
ahead.
so they've just slept together for the first time,
Right.
and I can't remember if they're about to do it again or if there's. He goes, "Wait, how old are you?"
Yeah.
I,
You should have
it's
asked me that a little before. Yeah.
too late for that, buddy.
Right. 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 That whole relationship is weird. Like that's one of mine. Is like you've just met this girl, you're driving to this town, and like there's no chemistry between them at all. And all of a sudden it's like, I'll stay here, whatever, and he kisses her, and then you have this, love scene or whatever, and it's like it's just creepy, man. I mean, he's clearly, way older than she is. And the bad
Yeah.
thing is in the fog, it's almost the exact same thing. Like he's an older
Yes.
guy and quote unquote seduced by the young woman, whatever. But yeah, so I will say the creepiest. I'll go on record. The creepiest part of this movie was not the insects and the snake coming out of the kid's pumpkin head. It wasn't, you know, androids or whatever robot people pulling off heads of, homeless guys or whatever. The creepiest part of this movie is an ER that has no patients that the doctor takes a nap. Like, I have never in the history of my life ever seen an ER with nobody in it.
Or where the doctor feels the need to drive to 3 towns over or wherever it is
Right,
to
right,
research the death of his patient,
right, right,
not
right.
just go, "Hey, Mr. Detective, you should look
Yes.
into this."
Yeah. And
Like,
why is the guy still holding the mask? I mean, he's been holding that mask for like how long? Like it's just they've already brought him in, they've examined him, he's in the room and he's still holding the mask. For them, and then I love that the android guy just comes in, kills him, and then just walks out like don't nobody's gonna see my face, nobody's gonna recognize me. But I guess as a robot he can just change faces or change heads maybe. So
yeah. And then he blows himself up for whatever reason they never bother to explain.
Yeah. I love the pouring of gasoline on him. I was like, okay, this is not going to end good. Yeah, there's a lot of weird that scenes that don't make sense. Those are the ones that stood out to me the most. Like when he, is like, well, it's pretty quiet here and I'm going to take a nap. I'm like, this is the ER, right? Like I know it's a small town, I guess, but still, uh, yeah, just weird. There was something else I was going to mention. Can't remember. All right, well, you ready to jump into some trivia and scenes and trivia?
Sure.
All right. Although the third film departed from the plot of the first two films, Wallace attempted to connect all three films together through certain stylistic themes. The film's opening title features a digitally animated jack-o'-lantern, an obvious reference to the jack-o'-lanterns that appeared in the opening titles of Halloween and Halloween 2. Wallace's jack-o'-lantern is also the catalyst in the Silver Shamrock commercials that activates the masks. Another stylistic reference to the original film is found in the scene where Dr. Chalice tosses a mask over a security camera, making the image on the monitor seem to be peering through the eye holes. This is a nod of the scene in which young Michael Myers murders his sister while wearing the clown mask in the first Halloween. Finally, the film contains a brief reference to its predecessors by including a few short scenes from Halloween in a television commercial that advertises the airing of the film for the upcoming holiday as a minor story within a story, which that part, once again, makes no sense. Like, if this is supposed to take place in the same world as Halloween, once again, if Halloween was not in the title, as you said earlier, it would be fine. But it's a sequel to that movie. Why would you be like, I would have rather them had a newscast about, 3 years ago, this Halloween, we captured Michael Myers, something about like you know, bring him in that way. Don't be it like a straight up commercial of the movie.
Yeah, it made, yeah, I mean, it definitely made it where it's like, it's not in the same universe. Like, you can try to say it is, but like, if you're watching the movie in the movie, like, that's,
I did want to mention, because I remember this when I watched Halloween Kills in 2021. 3 of Michael Myers' victims are displayed wearing the silver shamrock masks on the merry-go-round. I do remember that. That did jump out at me when I watched that. So I thought that was a cool nod in that movie back to this one. The tagline for this movie was "The night no one comes home," was a play on the original Hollywood tagline "The night he came home." Once again, trying to tie it together, but not really. All right, this is my last one. The movie takes place around Halloween 1982. The children in the movie are told to wear their masks and watch television at 9 p.m. on Halloween night, at which time the chip in the mask would be activated. In reality, the movie Halloween from 1978 was broadcast on NBC at 9 p.m. on Sunday, October 31st, 1982.
As you're saying that, and I don't know why it didn't clue me until just right now, something that I thought of. Maybe the younger kids would be at home, but the younger kids would not be watching Halloween on TV.
No.
When I got to a certain age, I don't think on Halloween night I would have been at home.
Yeah.
Watching TV. I would have been out finishing trick-or-treating for the night.
Yeah. It's funny to go about, like, I'm glad you bring that up, because I've been very irritated. I'm going to go on a rant for a second, so everybody just bear with me. We've got time. We're way ahead of schedule right now. It's been within the last 20 years, I think. But if you've lived long enough, you know that daylight savings time, like falling back, used to happen before Halloween. But like 20 years ago, maybe, like somewhere in the last 20 to 25 years, they moved it. If you notice, every year it's always the Sunday after Halloween. Do you know why they did this?
So people could have more trick-or-treating time?
No. It's all about money.
Well, it always is. That's the whole daylight savings time.
Yeah. The candy companies noticed that they were selling less candy for Halloween because parents didn't like the idea of their kids being out after dark. They felt safer with their kids trick or treating while the sun was still out, which I will say has ruined trick or treating since then, because as a kid, we didn't go out until it was dark. Like if you went out before, if anybody came to my door before it was dark outside, we wouldn't open the door. Like you've got to wait for it to be dark before we hand out candy. That was just the rule growing up.
Or you knew if it was before dark, it was the little kids.
Yeah, the really, really little kids, right.
Yeah.
But as you got older, like we were out till like 11 o'clock. I mean, most houses would stop run out of candy by like 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe at the latest. But we were always like roaming around doing stupid stuff. But
well, and you knew the rules. If the house had turned the lights off on the porch, you didn't go.
Right, exactly. So the candy company was one reason. And this is going to blow your mind. This is factual if you go back and research it, because I remember reading about it when it happened. The other institution that made the change,
Football?
golf courses. Golf courses knew they could make more money with extra time for people that played the Twilight golf courses.
Okay.
So getting an extra hour during the day would boost their sales in the slower months.
Well, I mean, if I had my druthers, if it was up to me, I would turn Halloween into a floating holiday, not a static holiday.
Right.
It would be like Thanksgiving is always the third Thursday or the last Thursday
of the month
of
November.
Of November. Halloween would be the last Saturday in November.
Yeah.
And that way, you never had to worry about, the kids have to go to school the next day, but trick-or-treating needs to start a little earlier.
Right.
I mean, and it never happened for me. It seems to be more of a Midwestern thing because I grew up down south where you're at. Halloween was always Halloween. Up here in the Wisconsin, the Midwest area, towns will change trick-or-treat Halloween to whatever night they feel like. Some of them will change it to Saturday. Some of them will change it to Sunday.
Right.
Some of them will set specific times. We're going to only do it from 5 to 7 or 6 to 8 or, and that's something that as a kid, that never happened. Like it was always Halloween night.
Yeah.
And you started, as soon as the sun started going down, you went out. And as long as people had their porch lights on, you could go.
Yeah. And we've seen, I mean, that's becoming more normal, like even down south. Like now you'll see like churches for their fall festivals or whatever. And even like neighborhoods, like you'll see the signs like, hey, we're doing our, trick or treating, trunk and treat, whatever they've kind of changed it to. It's usually going to be on a Saturday or a Sunday that's closest to the 31st. So really there's not that much, like I think last year we went around the neighborhood here on Halloween, October 31st, and it was probably less than half of the neighborhood had anybody out giving candy or had their lights on. So I think people are just accustomed to like going to the bigger, like, and maybe this might have been just where I was. I think I was in Maryland when this was, but I remember one or two Halloweens where the malls would have Halloween night where all the stores would have candy. So that was becoming like the quote unquote alternative for going house to house. But that was really more for the teenagers because we didn't see many kids there. But like all the like as we got a certain age, like I don't want to go around with all the little kids getting candy. We would go walk around the mall dressed up or not and just get, candy from the stores or whatever.
Yeah.
But
and because trick or treat, because Halloween doesn't really have any historic connotations or any sort of religious, despite what this movie tried to randomly shoehorn in, it doesn't really have any. It's not like there's a person who would, like, if I tried to change July 4th to like Saturday, like, okay, there's a real reason why July 4th is on July 4th. It's not just fireworks and
and
grilling beer
out.
and grilling out. Halloween is just kind of a made up holiday. I know there's some pagan traditions that are built into it, but it's not like it's not as important to the holiday as the fun that we have with it.
Yeah, exactly.
So changing it to a Saturday wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, and as long as some guy doesn't steal Stonehenge, we're good.
Right. Or a piece of, was it, he just took one stone, right?
Right, he took one stone from Stonehenge.
Yeah.
He managed to steal a 5-ton rock and nobody noticed him doing it.
Nope. Amazing. All right, well, yeah. So good little discussion about Halloween traditions. So that's true. I agree with you. Just like I think that they've been talking about for the last couple of years about moving the Super Bowl to like 2 weeks later, a week later to like President's Day weekend, because most people have that Monday off. So
Or just move it to a Saturday. It's
yeah,
already 2 weeks after
yeah,
the season
exactly.
ends
Yeah, it doesn't
anyway.
have to be on a Sunday. Yeah,
It doesn't. I mean, we are so used to not having football on Sundays anymore. Just put it on a Saturday.
right. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, well, let's jump into box office. Halloween 3 Season of the Witch opened in theaters in the United States on October 22nd, 1982, and it landed at number 2 on the weekend box office behind another new release for that week, First Blood with Sylvester Stallone. It was the worst performing Halloween film at the time. Several other horror films that premiered in 1982 performed far better, including Poltergeist, Friday the 13th Part 3, and Creepshow. All of those we've already covered on the podcast.
And I'm guessing the week 2 drop off was a massive compared to what most films get.
You know what? I didn't even look at that, but yeah, I think
It's
I think
not
it's
worth
pretty
looking
bad.
it up. But just
I mean, it still made money. People went to go see it. I think the opening weekend probably had the most, because after that, they were like, don't go see it. So yeah, huge drop off. All right, now it's time to take a look at how well this 80s flick holds up today. The all new rewatchability nostalgia meter is our way of measuring how enjoyable a movie is for repeat viewings, along with the waves and nostalgia it brings. Here's how it works: it's a 1 to 10 scale. Any number between 1 and 10 will do, but here are a few parameters to help you decide. At the bottom of the meter is a number 1, meaning I saw it once and that was enough. Right in the middle is a 5 at a 5 is a good rewatch every couple of years. And the highly coveted top spot, number 10, is highly rewatchable and full of nostalgia. So here we go, Nicholas. Where does Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch, rank on the rewatchability and nostalgia meter for you?
I have been debating this in my head all day today. I I think I've come down on a 4.
Okay.
It's not terrible. And if you go into it knowing there's no Michael Myers
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
just a mess of a movie, there's enough enjoyable things in it and enough, just over the top acting that it's at least worth watching. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, if you're going to do a Halloween marathon, skip it. It is, but if you're just looking to watch a silly movie that is tangentially, maybe a little scary,
Right.
it's not it's not great, but it's definitely not the worst movie.
No. No.
But yeah, so I think four is probably a little more generous than it deserves, but 4 is I think where I've landed on.
Yeah. And that's exactly where I was going to put it. I mean, it's not good enough to be a 5. There's no nostalgia for me, so that's automatically going to bring it down. But I had to say, is it rewatchable? And I can say, like, I watched it, what I said, 4 years ago, maybe. Watching it again 4 years later, I was able to sit through it. Like, I wasn't like, reaching for my phone every 5 minutes. I mean, like I said, it has some, scratch your head moments, like that doesn't make any sense, but it moves along pretty well. And if you go into it thinking more sci-fi, psychological, Invasion of the Body Snatchers was a big influence on it. I didn't mention that earlier, but kind of thinking of that type of movie, more sci-fi horror than just, slasher horror. And I think it's worth, pulling out every couple of years and rewatching. And I think we talked this before. Like, if somebody said I've never seen it before, I would be willing to watch it again with somebody who hadn't, just to get their reaction on some of the things in it. So I think that's where I'm landing on it. So. All right, well, let us know where you think Halloween 3 should be ranked on the rewatchability nostalgia meter for you. You can send us an email at info@80sflickflashback.com, or social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, or you can leave a comment right here in YouTube if you're watching the podcast on YouTube. So thanks, Nicholas, so much for joining us for this episode. We've got the summer is almost over. It's crazy, man. We're at the end of, well, by the time of this recording, we're ending July. This is going to drop on August 1st, but so we've got 2 more sequels to cover in the summer of sequels. A better horror movie next time. We're going to do Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors, and then for a special add-on, we're going to cover Rocky 3 at the end of August because I realized that I had an extra spot in August and didn't realize that when I originally made my calendar. But anything exciting happening with Pop Culture Roulette next couple
Um,
weeks?
no, we're kind of in an inconsistent schedule right now, but we're still pumping out episodes, and I think they're fun. We enjoy it. I guess as long as we're making each other laugh and having fun, then
Right,
hopefully that comes through and people enjoy listening. You can find
exactly.
me wherever Pop Culture Roulette. We're on all the streamers that I'm aware of,
Hmm.
are the podcast directories. If you want to get in touch with me, it's over at Pop Culture Roulette on Facebook or Pop Cult Roulette on Instagram.
Very cool. Definitely check it out. It's always a lot of fun. Uh, if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Jump online and visit the website, 80sflickflashback.com, or our T Public store for some awesome 80s flick flashback merch and original designs. I think I'm going to try to put together some silver shamrock designs here pretty soon after watching the movie. Thanks again for tuning in, everybody. I'm Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. It's time. It's time. Time for the big giveaway. Halloween has come. All you lucky kids with silver shamrock masks, gather around your TV set. Put on your masks and watch. All witches, all skeletons, all jack-o'-lanterns, gather around and watch. Watch the magic pumpkin. Watch.